What will we do when we have to confront the giants in our own life? We'll approach this message with a handful of questions, and we're going to deal with a handful of things. But today's question is this. Today's question is, what are you going to do when times in your life look really desperate? What are you going to do if you have faced a situation in your life that is absolutely desperate? A situation you can do nothing about. Let's read 1 Samuel chapter 17, just verse 23. He says this, "And as he talked with them, behold, there came up the champion, the Philistine of Gath, Goliath by name, out of the armies of the Philistines, and spake according to the same words. And David heard him." The situation is pretty desperate. David's looking around and all the nation is backed off. All of the armies, the greatest men of Israel, the greatest warriors that they know are cowering from Goliath. Saul, the great king, is hiding from Goliath. Nobody is going to confront Goliath. The situation seems so desperate that nobody was willing to step up and to take charge. So we find that beyond their fear, we find a bunch of individuals who are in a desperate situation and do not know which way to turn. Now I want you to get a real good look at this desperation. I want you to take a look at Goliath for just a moment. He's mammoth. I mean, this is not just a big guy. All right? This is a massive individual. As I said, he's over 9 feet tall. He was dressed for battle, and he wasn't coming out just to talk things over. He wasn't coming out to have a sit down so we can just share our feelings one with another. He wasn't coming out to discuss any kind of a treaty of any sort. This guy was there to battle. Somebody was going to die in this battle. It was desperate. It was not as though somebody were going to face one another and be a standoff and decide to call it a draw. That was not going to happen. Somebody is going to die in this battle. And when someone dies in this battle, it's going to determine who then is going to be the servants to the others. This is a massive guy. He is described as a champion. Not only that, but when he gives the weight of the things that he had, his spearhead, just the head of his spear, not counting the shaft, just the head of the spear weighed 15 pounds. It says that the coat that he wore, that is the armor, the things that he put on around him to protect him, weighs 125 pounds. Now, I don't know about you, but I got to tell you, 125 pounds is a lot of weight. Try chucking that up and down these steps a few times and you're going to realize this is more than I want to deal with. Now, when I was in my younger days, I could deal with such things. I was kind of interesting. I worked with a roofer for, only worked with him for a few weeks at a time where our business was kind of down. I wasn't making a lot of money. I was just trying to pick up a little extra money. And he would challenge me. Because all the guys there, they'd take a bundle of shingles, throw them up over the shoulder, climb up the ladder, throw them on the roof, climb down. I mean, that's the way they did it. And I said, well, you're going to challenge me. I put one over each shoulder. I could carry 2 bundles of shingles up and down the ladder all day long until the shingles ran out. Now, you say, well, I don't know, that's pretty good. I got to tell you, that's real good, just for the record. That's heavy stuff to climb up and down a ladder all day. But here's what I found out when I got home. You know where your feet hit the ladder rungs right there in the middle? Oh, my goodness. My feet were bruised. That was hard. All right? But when I was younger, I could handle some of those things. I was a little stouter. I'm looking at myself now, and I'm thinking, man, there's no way I could do something like that. I couldn't climb the ladder, much less put something on my shoulders and climb it. Can't do it. But here's what we find. We find this guy was bred for battle, and he had every reason to be afraid of Goliath, yet David chose not to be. Not only that, but the ultimatum that he offered was pretty unreasonable. Come on out and fight me so I can kill you and take all the rest of you as servants. That was the ultimatum. I mean, it wasn't any kind of a negotiation. This is what we're going to do. If you come out and confront me, it is for the purpose of me killing you and taking everybody as servants. So let me ask you another question. Are there any Goliaths like that in your life? And I say that because a lot of times when we look at our life and we begin to look at the things that are around us and we realize just how desperate our life really is. And we begin to realize, is there something in my life that I'm a servant to? Is there something in my life that I so greatly fear that I just bow before it? Is there something in my life that's so powerful and overtakes me that I cannot confront it? Let's talk about a few things just to give you an idea of what I'm talking about, because I want us to see this. What about, it could be that in your life, maybe you're consumed with financial burdens. Maybe your life is in a position where things look really, really desperate. I remember times in Debbie and my life when we were growing, when we were young in marriage and trying to make ends meet, and we get in over our head with little things, and sometimes the money supply would just be cut off, and we really struggled every now and then. There were times in our life where it seemed so desperate that we thought we're just going to lose everything. We went for months at a time where we had, the church actually stepped up. This is the church we were attending at the time. They stepped up and helped us pay our rent 1 month. My brother-in-law paid it a couple of months. We had folks that gave us food, folks that helped us. I would go out every day looking for something. I found that roofer and worked for him for a little while. We did everything we could do to make ends meet, and still it seemed desperate. I was telling somebody the other day, I found a guy during all that time, I found a guy that said, listen, if you'll hand out flyers for me, he says, we're going up to Columbus to hand out flyers. If you'll hand out flyers for me, I'll pay you for it. I said, okay, how much are you going to pay me? He said, I'll pay you $20 a day. I'm just going to tell you, drive up to Columbus, spend 8 hours handing out flyers, and drive back is a long day for $20. But here's what I thought. I could sit at home, or I could look for something else, or I could work all day for $20 and be able to take something home to put it on the table so we could eat that night. Amen. Folks, it was a desperate day. I felt like I couldn't do anything. I felt like my life was miserable. I thought, I'm just not achieving the things. I felt like I wasn't taking care of my family. I had a wife and a young daughter, and I'm thinking I couldn't take care of my own family. And I got to tell you, it was a desperate day. And you realize the difficulty it creates. It creates problems in your marriage. It creates problems in your own self-esteem. You get discouraged. You get defeated. You spend hours away from your family just trying to make ends meet. Maybe take on a second job. Do whatever you need to do just to make ends meet. Desperate situation. Creates a lot of fear. What am I going to do tomorrow? Creates a lot of discouragement. A lot of desperation in your life. What is your Goliath? Is it financial issues? Are you struggling and wondering where the money's going to come from tomorrow? You might be facing health issues. These might be beyond the care the doctors can provide. You might be looking at your health and going, they don't know any cure. Nobody knows what to do. I'm going to struggle with this for the rest of my life. It hurts. It's scary. It's frightening. It could be the very thing that takes me out of this world. It could be the thing that cripples me up. It could be the thing that devastates me to the point where I can't work, I can't provide for my family, I can't care for anybody's needs. It could be the very issue that makes me so completely helpless that I just sit and wonder what tomorrow's going to bring. Health issues. Could that be your Goliath? Could it be that when you're looking at your life and you're going, why? Why is this happening? Why am I facing these issues? Why are these things going on in my life? Is it the giant that makes you so desperate that you really don't know where to turn next? I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I'm miserable. I'm sick. I'm hurting. All I do all day long is think about how miserable and sick and hurting that I am. It's a sad situation. Is that the giant that makes your life desperate? It might be that you're facing some family issues. Maybe marriage, maybe children, and you're grasping at everything imaginable to try to fix the problem, and it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. And nothing seems to help. And you're facing your worst fears because you're thinking, I do not know what to do next. I've done everything I know to do. Man, I've read through the Bible. I'm trying to find what God says to do in this situation, and I'm struggling. It just doesn't seem like it's happening. I've reached out for every avenue of help. I've turned to every resource, and it's still a problem. I'm desperate. I don't know what to do. I keep resorting to the same things I've done over and over again that have never worked before and are not working again today. Have you been in a situation where it's desperate? And you're thinking, I'm going to lose my marriage, or I'm going to lose my family, or worse yet, I'm going to go crazy. I don't know what to do. Is that your giant? You might be grieving. You know, it's really a difficult thing to lose someone you love, maybe a spouse, maybe a child, maybe a parent. You know, loneliness and grief always seems to go together. It seems like when you're grieving, you also feel like you're all alone and nobody can be there for you. It doesn't matter if you're bombarded by 1,000 people, you still feel lonely. Because even if those 1,000 people are bombarding you, you still feel like there's something that you're dealing with that they're not, and you still feel lonely because we don't know what to say. We don't know what to do. I can pat you on the back and tell you everything will be okay, but I can't promise that. And what we find is that there is a loneliness and there is a grieving that takes place, and it hurts. And people tell you, listen, time heals all wounds. And you feel like saying you haven't been there. Time doesn't heal. Doesn't heal the wounds. It still hurts. The hurt is still present. And you're looking around for comfort and you're looking for support. And you realize everybody else is dealing with issues as well, and you're going to have to find something on your own, like it or not, that helps. And you're looking at your life and you're going, this is desperate. I don't know which way to turn. I'm depressed. I'm afraid. And I'm lonely. You might be dealing with some bitterness, some ill feelings, maybe toward others. You know, I hate the way that I'm being treated. Christians shouldn't behave that way. I'm hurt and I'm struggling and I can't seem to get over it. It seems like you're drifting away from God, and the bitterness and the anger just keeps mounting, just keeps building. And we get so discouraged and we begin to lose the battle because we feel like quitting. We're looking at it and we're going, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I'm hurt. There might be another Goliath that I haven't mentioned. All I'm trying to do is say that in our life, there are sometimes Goliaths, there are sometimes giants that causes us to have a desperate situation, and we need to know where to turn. We need to know what to do. So what we need to do is attack these issues with our text. Let's see what David did. David's desperate. He's facing Goliath. He's trying to figure out what needs to be done. He's looking around him and he sees all the desperation. He sees that his brothers are desperate. People that are there to battle are desperate. Even his king is desperate. Everybody is so desperate that and afraid that he realizes, what am I going to do? I'm going to have to do something. Somebody at some point in time has to step up. Somebody has to say, I've got to kill the giant. The giant has to be slain somewhere. Now remember, first of all, if we're going to attack this issue, here's something we need to remember, and we'll see that David gets this. But what we need to remember is who the real enemy is. We're told in Ephesians chapter 6, as a matter of fact, Brother Jacques dealt a long time with these issues. But understand and know that in Ephesians 6 that we are not fighting flesh and blood, but principalities and powers, rulers of the darkness of this world, spiritual wickedness in high places. Let me just cut that short for you. Our battle is not against people. Our battle is against Satan and his armies. And let me tell you, they're out there. David understood this. David realized that this was bigger than a fight between him and Goliath. In reality, it was a battle between God and those that oppose God. David saw that. And in seeing that, he understood that his greatest resource was to tap into God's plan so that he would conquer those who were giving Goliath his power and his might. David got it. He realized it. You know, when we look at this, I get that it's easy to say, I get that this is a battle that's going on beyond flesh and blood. I get that that's easy to say. I can stand up here in the pulpit and say, listen, you're fighting a battle that is waged in an arena that we can't even see. There is an arena that surrounds us where God's armies are constantly battling the armies of Satan. It's a constant battle. Sometimes it's a battle that protects us, watches over us, cares for us, keeps us safe. But at the same time, because I cannot see in that arena, because I can't witness the battle that's going on, I still live in a desperate state where I don't know and I can't see who's going to win. All I can see is the flesh and blood before me. And so sometimes what happens is we see the flesh and blood before us and we forget that the army and the battle is taking place in a realm we can't even see. I love that picture. Sometimes to know that the battle is being fought for me. When I was in grade school, my mama sent me to school in the wrong district. So back then, you had to go to the school that was in the right district. And she did not like the school that was in our district. But not only that, but she had to go to work at a time where it was really going to be difficult to get me to school. And this is when I'm in kindergarten, okay? Half-day kindergarten. She can't just leave work. It was a big deal. But my aunt lived literally across the street from a school in the next district. So my mama sent me to that school so that she could drop me off at my aunt's house, and my aunt could see to it that I went to school, and after I was done, I could just walk back over to her house. Mom picked me up there after work. It was a good plan, and it made good sense until the school found out that was what was going on. School found out, so they pulled me out of kindergarten. I'm a little 5-year-old kid, 4 or 5, whatever age I am in kindergarten. They pulled me out and started asking me all these questions. I'm like, I don't know. Where do you go when you get out of school? So I go to my Aunt Arb's house, and I'm crying because it's scaring me, And they're going, well, where does she live? And I'm like, she doesn't live there. And man, I'm telling you, they interrogated me, little 5-year-old guy, and I was horrified. I was so scared that when they let me go back to class, I snuck out of class and ran over to my aunt's house, and school wasn't even out yet. They lost a little 5-year-old, and they don't know what to do. They knew where to find me because I had told them where I was. So I have no idea, man, I'm horrified. I don't ever want to go back. Mom said, don't worry, I'll take care of it. No, Mom, you don't understand. I'm going to get in trouble. I'll take care of it. Just don't worry about it. Well, unbeknownst to me, my mama went and visited the school, and they let me finish out that school year, but assured her that I would not be attending there the next year. Little did they know we moved into that district the next year. But so when I showed up, they're like, whoa, wait a minute. But unbeknownst to me, Mama took care of things. And I wasn't bothered at school anymore. When I went, everything was taken care of. All my fears were gone. That first day back, it was a little scary. I kept thinking, they're going to come and get me. They're going to come and get me. They're going to throw me in jail. I'm not allowed to be here. But she was fighting for me when I couldn't even see it. I want you to understand something. When we're dealing with this issue, I get it. That we have an unknown force that's going on all around us that we can't see. And God is doing the battle. God is doing the battle that we can't see. All we see is the flesh and blood. All we see is what is before us. David was able to see something beyond that, and we realize it. Here's the problem. Goliath hated David because Goliath hated the God of Israel. I need to never lose sight of that. Any battle that comes my way, I need to realize that God is greater than whatever it is. So it doesn't matter how desperate time seems. We have a great God. Satan's goal, I want you to understand this. Here's Satan's goal. Satan's goal is to either get rid of me or turn me into a servant. One of the two. Get me out of the picture or turn me into a servant. Now keep in mind, this was the same thing that Goliath had said, wasn't it? Goliath said, listen, you come out and battle me and I'm going to kill you. and I'm going to take the rest of you as servants. That was the goal of Goliath. So the goal of Satan is no different. He either gets those who are working and doing, who is willing to step up. All he wanted is to take away the one who was willing to step up so that he could turn everybody else into servants. David was willing to step up, so his goal was kill David so that everybody else could be turned into servants. Folks, we need to understand that that Satan's goal is always to destroy your life. Always to take you down or to bring you over to his side. Now, how does he do that? Number one, by making me ineffective. I want you to notice the Israelites. God's people, as they're along with their leader Saul, and they're all arrayed for battle, and they're all ready for battle. They've got their swords, they've got their javelins, they've got their bow and arrows, they've got their suits of mail. I mean, they are ready for battle, and yet here they are hiding out because they're afraid of the enemy. What we find is Goliath had already won the battle when it comes to Israel because they were afraid of Goliath. If we are afraid of our giants, we have already lost. That's why he tells us we ought not have the spirit of fear. You know, we ought not fear whatever the world has to throw at us. We ought not fear whatever Satan has to throw at us. If we are overcome by that fear, if we are overcome by discouragement, if we are overcome even by anger, then Goliath has already destroyed us. The giant in our life has already defeated us. We cringe and we hide in fear. How many times have you seen these things keep people out of church? Keep people out of fellowship with God's people, out of Bible study, out of prayer, out of ministries. That's exactly what Satan wants. If I can discourage you, so that you just stay home, you're defeated. If I can discourage you to the point where you quit, you're defeated. If I can discourage you to the point where it's not important to you anymore, then you quit. You're his servant, no longer God's servant. Do you realize that when we get beaten down to the place where we no longer serve God because we have decided that those things are just not going to be a part of my life because I don't know, I can't really do much because of my health. I can't really do much because of my finances. I can't really do much because I'm so angry. I'm not going to go there with a bunch of people that I'm mad at. I'm discouraged. I'm down. I'm grieving. I can't go there when I'm grieving. I can't go there when I'm hurting because I won't pay attention. No, what you're doing is you're just saying, listen, God cannot use me because I have decided that I'm going to be the servant of Satan. That's harsh, isn't it? I know it is. I get it. But when we bow to that giant, when we let the giant defeat us and we cower, all we have done is become his servant rather than God's. How many times have you seen these things take place? I've seen it all too often. I'll just tell you, I've seen it more times than I'd like to see it. You know, and here's the problem. If you lose, if you're ineffective in God's plan and God's work, I wonder how many of your family members, how many of your friends might also lose because you will fail to share with them. I just shared with you how many people we had that were new in our vacation Bible school. Had we decided not to do that because, you know what, we're just beat down. It's hard. It's too hard for folks to do it. It's tough. Those kids would not have heard about Christ. How many people continue to be the servants of Satan because we've decided that we're not going to do what God would have us to do? You know, by turning me into a complaining, whining, murmuring detriment to the cause of Jesus Christ, that giant will win every time. I want you to notice what happens to those who are fearful. David's brothers became critics. They were fearful. They didn't want to face the giant. And David comes along and says, I'm going to face the giant. And they said, what? Man, you're just full of pride. You're just trying to make fun of us. You just come because he calls it the naughtiness of your heart. He's saying you have come with a heart full of mischief. All you want to do is tease us because we haven't. I know what you're doing, David. You're trying to make us look bad. So no, I'm trying to kill the giant. I'm trying to kill the giant. And so he goes and talks to the king. He says, hey, listen, you got nobody to step up. I'll do it. Oh, no, you're just a kid. Man, you're a shepherd. Can't have you doing that. I can't have you stepping up. David said, listen, nobody else is stepping up. Somebody's got to. I'm your man. I'm ready to do it. I'm going to step up. And so what we find is then Saul says, okay, if you're going to step up, you're right. Nobody else has. Somebody needs to. Put on my armor. And he tries on the armor. He says, I haven't proved this. He says, I've never worn armor before. I've never put this stuff on. I don't know how to use this stuff. I'll tell you what, let me just take my slingshot and do this. Are you serious? Seriously? You're going to go whoop this guy with a slingshot? Yeah, I think that'll work. That's what I know. Listen, I killed a bear, killed a lion when they came after the sheep. God gave me the direction to do that, gave me the strength to do it. How is this giant any different than that? I ain't going to argue with you anymore. We got nobody else stepping up. Go for it. So what we find is David steps up. Man, but the problem is because everybody else had quit. Now all of a sudden, the people that choose to step up, they're sitting back going, did you see how they did that? Man, they're just full of pride. All they're trying to do is make us look bad because they're willing to do it and I'm not. I've had people say things like that. I have a pastor friend who's led a lot of people to the Lord here lately. God has just really blessed him. And someone put on Facebook, why do you have to post all of these? You just trying to show off? I'm like, are you serious? Serious? Go out and win some folks yourself. Go out and tell some people about Jesus. Go out and let them know that, listen, the only hope they have is in Jesus Christ. And then put it on Facebook so the rest of us that want to see that can glorify God in what you are doing. Man, if all we can do is complain about what others are doing that step up, there's a problem. There's a problem, but that's what fear does. That's what a desperate situation will do. That's what happens when we become servants to Satan rather than servants to God, because we are afraid of Satan. And we're afraid of the giants in our life. And we're supposed to be a part of God's army. But when we refuse to do what God would have us to do, we become a part of Satan's army. We switch sides. We used to play a game when I was a kid called Annie Over. Any of you all old enough that you remember a game called Annie Over? I'm old all by myself. Oh, there's a couple. Okay. What you would do is you'd stand on either side of the house. There was a ball. You divide up into teams. You throw the ball over the house. They'd catch the ball and yell, Annie over! And you had to try to get to the other side of the house before they hit you with the ball. All right? Once you get to the spot, all right, you were good. All right? We'd do it all over again. All right? Throw it the other way. So you had to be able to, it was a circle, maybe it was circle the house, whatever it was. You had to circle the house without getting hit by the ball. But if you got hit by the ball, you became a part of the other team. That's what a lot of Christians have done. We got hit by the ball. The giant was too big. We got beat up and we quit. And we wound up serving Satan rather than serving Christ, just because all we did was quit. Like it or not, that entire Israel army, whether they realized it or not, were already servants to Goliath because they were afraid of him. They were afraid of him. If we're afraid of the desperate situations in our life, and if we back down, we have already been defeated. Paul told Timothy this in 2 Timothy 2:3. He says, thou therefore endure hardness. When it gets tough, endure. When it seems like it's more than you can bear, endure. Don't complain, don't whine, don't argue with God, endure. He says when it gets tough, when the giant seems like it's too big, when it's more than you can deal with, endure. He says as a good soldier of Jesus Christ. You deal with it and you move on and you do what God would have you to do, because God can see the big picture. God knows what He wants you to do. God knows how to use that more than you could ever imagine. By conforming me into those who are different than the outside world is another way in which Satan will work. He'll just cause me to be no different than anybody else through whatever. Goliath's goal was to make the Israelites into servants of the Philistines. You know what that meant? That means they would become Philistines. They would serve the Philistines. They would be a part of their culture. And as we know, anytime Israel became a part of another nation, another culture, every time they began to worship their gods and they ceased to worship their own. Amen. He'll make us into something for Him rather than something for God. But we can be defeated by Goliath. There's no doubt about it. So what do I do? So what do I need to do? Well, let me show you what David did. He entered into this battle. I want you to see three things. I want you to see how he entered into this battle. I want you to see how he fought this battle. And I want you to see how he ended the battle. Look at how David entered into the battle with Goliath. He told his brother, he said, "Is there not a cause?" He went into this battle understanding that, listen, I have to fight this battle. We can't let anything come between us and God. We need to serve Him. Is there not a cause? He also, look at what he told Saul in 1 Samuel 17:37. David said, "Moreover, the Lord that delivered me out of the paw of the lion, out of the paw of the bear, He will deliver me out of the hand of this Philistine." He's saying, God will deliver me. God's bigger than the problem. God's bigger than any situation. It is desperate to many, but it's not desperate to me because I know that my God is bigger than the problem. Look at what he told Goliath. 1 Samuel 17:45. "Thou comest to me with a sword, with a spear, and with a shield, but I come to thee in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom thou hast defied." How did he enter into this battle? He entered into the battle knowing that, listen, the only hope he had was God. And that he was a representative for God, that he was the ambassador for God, that if the Goliath was going to be defeated, it was going to be defeated because he stood up for God. What are you going to do when times are desperate? It starts with understanding that, listen, this is God's battle. And I am just a tool that God's going to use. Notice how he fought the battle with Goliath. Not only did he enter into battle correctly, but look at how he fought the battle. In verse 48, "And it came to pass when the Philistine arose and came and drew nigh to meet David," listen to this, "that David hasted and ran toward the army to meet the Philistine." He started the battle by saying, "Is there not a cause? This is the Lord's battle. I am going to defeat him." And he continued in the battle by running to meet the battle, not shying away, not cowering, not being afraid, but running to the battle. Headlong, "Here I come, I'm ready." I can imagine Goliath standing there and seeing this young man running as hard as he can run towards him to fight this battle. And he's going, "Who does this little guy think he is?" And here he comes running at Goliath to face the battle. He is not afraid. He is challenging Goliath as much as Goliath had challenged him. We have to attack in battle. We have to. There is a confidence, there is a trust, there is a willingness to be used by God in this battle. And David said, "I'm running to you. I'm coming to fight this battle." Do we trust God so much that we face the battles that we have to face just like that? Now, we can sit back and complain, we can whine, we can do whatever we want to do. But are we willing to confront this and say, God's got a bigger picture than I've got. And so I'm going to face this battle as much as God wants me to. It doesn't matter what it is. And I am going to be what God would have me to be in battle. I love the fact that he runs toward the battle. I want you to notice how he ended the battle. Look how he ended it. He started it right. Man, he got into the battle and did it right. And then we find at the end of the battle, it says in verse 57, as David returned from the slaughter of the Philistine. Notice that. By the way, I've got to tell you something. In running to this battle, he wasn't just running to Goliath. Keep in mind, Goliath is just one of many Philistines. If I kill Goliath, chances are all of those Philistines are going to come after me as well. He's not just fighting one battle. If this battle is won, I probably have another battle right after that. And it might be bigger than this one, but he still ran to the battle. but he ended it well. And as David returned from the slaughter of the Philistine, I mean slaughter, I love that word slaughter. That's the word we use when it's just so overwhelming. You know, when the defeat is so bad that it wasn't even a game. Slaughter. That Abner took him and brought him before Saul with the head of the Philistine in his hand. He brought the head of Goliath to Saul to let him know this battle's been won. This battle's over. Look, I've got the head of the giant. Folks, the only way we're ever going to bring the head of the giant to the very face of God, the only way we're going to present the head of the giant to the people that need to understand that we took a stand, is we have to win in battle. And the only way we can win in battle is to trust that God's going to fight the battle for us. I'm going to close with this illustration. We had a man that was in our church. Some of you might even know who he is. His name is Steve Zimble. Steve Zimble. Steve Zimble was an interesting guy. And he and his wife had gotten a divorce at some point in time in their life. They couldn't get along. And so they divorced. She went her way, he went his. They were both living with other people. And somewhere along the line, Steve met a guy on a job, and the guy led him to the Lord. Steve got his life right with God. Moved out from the lady that he was living with because he knew that wasn't right. Left her and realized, you know what? I should be with my wife. And he began to pursue the woman he had divorced. Long story short, she moved out from the guy that she was living with. She trusted Jesus Christ as well. They came together and were baptized, followed the Lord, became a member of our church, and served all the while they lived here in this area until they moved to Oregon, Washington, somewhere over there, somewhere over on the West Coast. He loved the Lord. He had made a decision. You know what he did? He fought the battle. He fought the battle. And by remarrying the woman he should have stayed married to, he had brought the head of Goliath. Said, this is what God would have me to do. And I love the words that he would present. Sometimes when he would share his testimony, he often said it this way, and I don't have it exact, but I'm real close. He said, Christ scored a victory in our lives and in our marriage. Head of Goliath. Christ scored a victory. When we do not let the giants in our life defeat us, and we trust the Lord, what we do, we score a victory not for us, but for the Lord. Today, I want to ask you something. Have you let life beat you down? What are you going to do when you face the enemy? What are you going to do when that enemy presents himself and it just seems more desperate than you can imagine? Now, we can sit back and say, well, I don't know where to turn, don't know what to do. Trust the Lord. I know that sounds easy, but trust the Lord. It's a battle he can win. And he might not fight it the way you think it ought to be fight. He might not win it the way you think it ought to be won. But trust him. Trust the Lord. Bow your heads with me if you would. I don't know what the giants are in your life today. I don't know what you might be facing. Might not be a giant in your life. But I'm here to tell you, giants come along from time to time. And we need to know how to face them. And the only hope we have is to trust the Lord. It's not enough just to walk through life saying, I'm a Christian. We need to trust him in every avenue of our life. That's the kind of faith that it takes to say, I am a child of God. Too many folks don't realize what God wants and desires for you in your life. And he wants and desires for us to be the people while we're here that will lead others to him. We can only do that if we first know him, trust him, have faith in him, but then if we don't allow Satan to beat us down. Let us be what God would have us to be. Doesn't matter how desperate the situation is. Can you defeat the giant? Nope. But God can. God can. Dear Father, I pray that today you work and move in our lives in just such a way, Lord, that gives you the glory. Lord, may people see in us a life that gives you the glory. May we never be defeated by any situation, but Lord God, may we give you the glory. We thank you. We praise you. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Stand if you will.